Until the last one is going to be the worst class of all time. You ask questions, I'm just going to run away every time you ask a question. So I like to get to, obviously I do these classes often, and I've done it, in fact, in Mountain View before. Some of you might have been at the one I did in 2015. The way that I like to do this now is a little different than I used to do it. I used to ramble on for 45 minutes and then eventually get to questions, and I think that the key thing here is that you've paid to be here to hear any advice I can give you in any capacity or to hear from me in some way. So what I'd like to do is, if you have a question for me, regardless of the subject, I'd like to be able to offer you any advice I can give. And so I'd like everyone to raise their hand if you have a question. She will hand you the microphone. I will not decide who gets to ask the questions because that way I don't get in trouble. So I won't get mean tweets later. I'll still get mean tweets, just not those specific mean tweets. So let's just get to it. If you have a question for me and of any capacity, please ask it. If I have already answered the question that you're going to ask, try to listen to the other ones so I don't have to keep answering the same question over and over again. But if you do want me to answer the same question over and over again, I can do that. We can just set a Guinness Book of World Records for the most time answering the same question. I have a terrible attention span, and I can't remember what I'm saying while people are talking very close to me. So if I start saying something that makes no sense, it's because everyone's having a conversation in the front, and I'm just listening to what they're saying. So I'm one of those people, like if you start talking to me about something else, I'll just say the words that you're saying while you're talking to me. It's not great. It didn't do well for me in school. This is why I don't have a high school diploma. Because I dropped out because someone else started talking while I was taking tests and I just wrote what they were saying. That's not how it happened. It was much more complicated than that. So I will say before we start, I am someone who unfortunately had to drop out of high school. I do not advocate that for everybody. I think that for me, I was in a situation where I felt like I needed to move and go and get out of my town, and I feel now as an adult that I'm remiss by not having some form of education. I've done my best to try to educate myself so that I'm not a stupid adult, but as we all know, the primary amount of people are stupid, and I think it's good that we all remain not stupid here. Yeah. So let's have a leg up on everybody else and be less dumb. So if you have any form of education that you're involved in, I advocate you continue with that, and I will give you the best advice I can, whether it's an education, life, whatever it is. So let's get started. Raise your hand if you have something. Oh, and also, sorry, one more thing. If you are sitting here in the corners, these speakers here emit a crazy ass noise if you point the microphone at them. It's called feedback. I know you laugh now, but every single class someone's like, "Hi, Andy." So if you could avoid doing that, that'd be great. Also, my ears are not so great after spending the last decade in front of loudspeakers, so please speak loudly if you can when you ask me a question. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, what's your name?
Carmela.
Hi, Carmela.
So you talked a lot about how you had trouble in school with kids picking on you a lot.
Sure.
And I've been through like the same thing since like 3rd grade. So I've been having trouble like dealing with it. How did you yourself like deal with people always like picking on you because of the way you look or what you listen to?
Well, the truth is that when I was really young, it was a little bit of me putting myself in a situation where I didn't want to involve myself in social scenarios, and I think that ultimately kind of stunted my growth in terms of social ability, and that made it more difficult for me to make friends because I kind of always wanted to just be by myself. When I was really young, I was even more of a piece of shit than I am now when it came to thinking, like when I was a kid, I'd be like, kids are dumb, I don't want to hang out with kids. And I was a fucking kid, so you can imagine how few people wanted to hang out with me when I had that attitude. So I kind of put myself in that position very early on, and then I had to kind of be comfortable with myself. And then as I got older, because I was so, my interests were so varied in comparison to my peers, and my ability to assimilate socially was so, stunted, I didn't really have a lot of friends. And I think that, as you guys know, when someone is different or is off of the beaten path, so to speak, people can tend to attack that person as that group mentality of like, well, that person's weird, so fuck them. The truth is that, and I know you all know this deep down, but if anyone comes at you and says something about what you're wearing that day or the thing you like or whatever else, as long as it's not hurting somebody, you're not weird, they're fucking weird. Because truthfully, who gives a shit? Like, I don't walk around like, fuck that guy's choices today. Like, I don't care. No one feels that way. There's something innately wrong with a person that goes up to someone else and says, what you like is bullshit and what I like is better than you. There's a certain element of tribalism that we all have. I mean, like, I love sports, right? There's no reason why the team that I like is better than another team, but I like the color scheme from my town better. So I'm like, fuck that other team all the time. People have that inherently all the time. So when you're a young kid and you see somebody like yourself who has purple hair or listens to rock music or whatever, and then somebody else doesn't like it, they go, well, fuck that person, I like the thing I like more. That's weird on their part. So you have to remember that you have to be above that. The easiest way to I guess, remove yourself from the pain and anguish of other people's bullshit is to remember how dumb they are. And I know it sounds simple, but there is no intelligent person in the world who would waste their time trying to make your day worse. They would be concerned with their own interests and the things that make them happy. So just kind of smile to yourself knowing that you're not as dumb as they are. I don't know, you might be more dumb than them, I don't know. I'm just kidding, I'm kidding. I know I'm definitely more dumb than 90% of other people, so I don't know. But no, to be fair, I think that, I know it sounds silly, but the truth is, just be proud of who you are and the things that you like. And I know that physical violence and other things, they can sometimes happen. I know that there's situations where kids in school will get violent. Do your best to stay on top of that. Tell a teacher, tell anybody in your life that you feel like might be able to protect you, and don't allow people to hurt you. But if it's just a situation where somebody's talking shit to you about what you like, just ignore them, because the truth is they don't mean anything in the long run.
Hello, Andy. I'm
Hello.
Jay. I've kind of been like a fan of yours since you were like a YouTube blogger.
Sure.
So as you can tell, I'm very overwhelmed with that. But have you ever felt so overwhelmed at how quickly your career, from being someone who's a YouTube blogger to someone who has thousands of fans streaming and winning awards, do you ever feel like overwhelmed at how fast that your career has gone in the past like 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, the truth is that when YouTube first started, it wasn't like an outlet for, now you have people who are professional YouTubers and that's what they do. I started Black Veil Brides in 2006 and I just wanted to have another way of connecting with people, and so I would be sitting around often and having nothing to do because I wound up moving to Los Angeles and didn't have any money, and I would just have, I'd be riding the coattails of whatever girl I was dating, staying at her home or whatever, and oftentimes I'd have a lot of downtime, and I thought, well, I have this audience of people that I want to connect with, and I have these people that I feel like are similar to me, and this new thing came out was YouTube. You can only do 10-minute videos, and I had a shitty camera, and I would edit everything in Windows Movie Maker, and I would just be silly and talk about my day or whatever else, just as a way of A, killing time when I was bored as hell, and two, A and two, by the way, you can see I don't have an education, and B, as an opportunity to hopefully connect with people. And I think that the reason I say all that is because it has been a continued growth of connection with people over the last decade. As social media has grown, as my opportunity to do more things has grown, I've been able to avail myself to more opportunities, and the crazy thing just comes from the turnover generationally of the people that get into my music and what I do. Obviously, a lot of people here were not old enough to really care or know about my 10-minute long YouTube videos in 2006. There's people here who were very, very young at that time. There's also people here who have, like yourself, been around since then, watching my career unfold. The turnover of young people getting into it, older people finding it, people who maybe wrote off Black Veil Brides early on because they didn't understand it, suddenly finding it, or doing these shows every day where I'm playing as Andy Black, and people who maybe have seen me on many Warped Tours and thought, oh, that's just that guy in the makeup band or whatever, coming to watch the set and seeing something else out of me artistically and enjoying it. All of that is the most crazy stuff. The truth is that watching my audience grow and the way that I grew has felt very natural, in the sense that every step I've taken and every misstep I've taken has been broadcast. I was a teenager going through the same trials and tribulations as every other teenager, but I put myself in the public arena. So all the stupid shit that I've done has been on YouTube, and all of the crazy things I've said have been out there, and me going through the struggles of being a young kid, learning how to try to fit into, now I'm in a rock band and I'm on tour at 19 and everybody else is significantly older than me and they all drink and party, and me trying to fit in and kind of being a little bit of a poser when I was younger, trying to fit into something that I wasn't necessarily. All of that is out there. All my uncomfortable growing pains are out there. So to me, I feel just really lucky that after a decade, people still give a shit what I have to say.
I have one more question before I hand off the mic to someone.
You can spike the microphone after this question.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Please don't do that.
I'm not.
Yeah.
But like being in Black Veil Brides, I followed you guys since your very first
You've
album.
been in Black Veil Brides?
No, like I followed.
There's been a lot of people, so I can't keep track.
Like I've been in the BBB army for since the very beginning, since your very first album. But like you have lost a lot of like fellow musicians in the band. You've changed members. Like has that ever like really affected like your music and how?
Well, not since the band has become the band. We've had the same lineup since the first album. I mean, obviously Sandra was in the band briefly, but she was already on the way of leaving just shortly after the first record, and that was just because her musical interests are very different than ours. She wanted to play more kind of pop punk stuff, and we were really going towards the more metal, glam metal, metalcore stuff. But the band has remained the same since that lineup got together. The thing that's confusing to people is you look at the Wikipedia page and you go, wow, there's been like 25 people in this band. And the truth is, I started it when I was 16. And here was the application process to get into Black Veil Brides. Do you play an instrument, and do you live in northern Kentucky or Cincinnati? If you do, you're in Black Veil Brides. Because I would constantly need people to, anyone here that's ever tried to start a band, you know that a lot of people don't commit. There's a person that you know who maybe plays bass, and you go, hey, you're a bass player, will you come play bass in my band? And they'll come to a rehearsal or two, and then they're gone. The problem was in those days, it was like the beginning of MySpace, and anytime I had a new member in the band, I'd be like, there's a guy, I gotta put him on the MySpace page. So like for like a week, there'd be some random person who's listed officially. I'll tell you an example of one person who probably regrets a decision that was made later. There was a guy who, the day before the Knives and Pens video, I had to put together a band because I didn't have a band at that point. And the day before the Knives and Pens video, I had got my friend Sandra, who I had met through my then girlfriend, a guy named Chris who was in a band locally in Dayton and then moved to Los Angeles. This is, by the way, like 3 months after I moved to LA, so I didn't know anybody. And so I had to find a bass player for the video. As you guys know, who've seen the Knives and Pens video, there's only 3 people in that video. There was meant to be another guy who playing bass, but the night before we ran through rehearsals in the studio that we were doing it, and his girlfriend's dog died, and he had to fly to San Jose, and I've never heard from him again. So I wonder if he's ever seen the video, or wondered what could have been if he had just stayed there that night. But anyway, so the point is, there was, until I met the core of the band, all I was really doing was just trying to find people who would plug in the holes, so to speak, for it at that time being. Often it would be a situation where, hey, Andy, you're 16 and I'm 22, I got a job and I have all this stuff. I can't be going to rehearsal 3 times a week and I can't be playing shows all the time, so people would bounce in that way. When I moved to LA, I extended the opportunity to everybody that I was in the band with at the time, saying, hey, I'm moving to LA, let's all go together. And everybody for the year before I left was like, yeah, we're all going to go to LA. And then the truth came, where I'm actually fucking going to Los Angeles, and they're all like, yeah, I think I'm going to stay in Kentucky and have my job and all my other shit. So it's a little bit, I guess the timeline is a little confusing for people, but since the band has been together, since it's been the 5 of us, nothing has changed, and nothing ever will change. This is the way that the band is, as far as I can see, forever.
Are Black Veil Brides ever going to be on tour again, or is this going to be anywhere for right now?
No, we'll be on tour in January, so.
That's what I like to hear. Okay, next on to the next one.
Hello.
You could be the dictionary.
My what? I didn't do anything to make that happen, but thank you.
Hey, Andy.
Hello.
So you were talking about earlier about how like you left your town and came out here to like do whatever you wanted to do, musician stuff.
Yeah.
How did you get over that fear of like finally finding yourself up and doing what you wanted? Like was that scary? Is that decision for
It
yourself?
probably should have been, but it wasn't. And that was maybe my biggest problem. I have never doubted myself in the decisions I was making. When I was younger especially, I'd be like, fuck yeah, I'm doing this thing that I plan to do. For instance, if I say to my wife, honey, I think I'm going to shave my head today. she goes like, okay, if it makes you happy. Within 15 minutes, I have shaved my head. And then I go, fuck, I shaved my head today. And then I have to figure out how to deal with that. So that's usually how decisions go for me. Where I go, I'm going to do this thing right now, and then I can't stop until I do that thing, and then I have to figure out how to deal with the thing that I just did. So that was really the way it went for me. Was when I turn 18, I'm going. When I turn 18, I'm going. I had been going back and forth from 2006. I had been flying back and forth from Los Angeles to where I'm from with any money I could make it any way I could. I did acting when I first moved to LA to try to make ends meet. I did commercial work and pilot work and everything else. I did a little bit of modeling stuff when I was younger. Anything I could to make money so I could stay out there, because I knew while I didn't love LA as a place to live, I knew it was where I needed to be to meet other people that were like-minded and were going to be able to do this band. Because like I said, the biggest thing I struggled with was finding people that had a similar mindset. So I think that this abiding belief that as soon as I get there, things are going to come together made it a lot easier for me to pick up and go. Plus, when you're a young kid, you don't know that like $6,000 is not a lot of money. Like I thought, like I could buy a house with this. Like that was what I had saved for a long, long time, and I had it in a savings account that I couldn't access until I had turned 18. And so I had like $6,000, and I was like, fuck yeah! Which turns out $6,000 is not a lot of money when you're 18 and have no idea how to manage money at all. So I burned through that pretty quickly. And then I was living in my car. And then I was like, well, now I'm living in my car, I really gotta make this work. And then I was eating taquitos every night that they were throwing out at the end of the night at 7-Eleven, and I was like, I really have to make this work. So that was really, more than anything, it's the same idea as shaving my head. I did it, and then I had to figure out how to make it work.
So with like saying that, what's your advice for someone who's like recently 18 or like nervous to leave their family, but they need to do that for themselves, but they can't do that here?
There is nothing to be afraid of when you're prepared. The truth is that stage fright, I think, a lot of times, and many other things that are nerve-based, come from a lack of preparedness. If you feel like you're not totally sure what you're doing when you go out there, any of us feel like nervous in anything you're doing. You have a test you didn't study for, you're going to be very nervous, as opposed to, I know fucking everything on this, I'm going to kill it. There's a very different feeling that we have emotionally to when we're prepared for something to when we aren't. And so, my advice is always, prepare, rehearse, get yourself ready, get yourself financially prepared, get everything you can do together before you go, as long as you know you're going to go. Don't be one of those people who say, well, I'm not quite ready yet. There is a time when it's time to go if that's what you're going to do. And so my advice is always just stay prepared.
Thank you.
Do you need water? Hello.
Hi.
Hi. What's your name?
I'm good. Hi. I'm very nervous to talk to you guys.
Don't be nervous.
I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous. I'm just filming you. These are all cameras.
I followed you since MySpace.
You've been back there the whole time?
No, I've been following
I knew there was someone behind me from last time.
I've been following you since, early back up rides. I've been already forever. I've probably gone to almost all your shows in San Francisco.
Nice.
I wanted to ask you something about the new album.
Did you go to the one where people were throwing glass bottles in my head?
Yes, I was.
We talked about that one a lot. That was, what's it called? Slims? Yeah, Slims.
And I got into it. Anyway, beyond the point.
Great night. People used to love us.
I have a question about the new album. There is a song on the album called Stay Alive.
Yes.
Difficult time recently. I wanted to ask you your mindset going into writing that song. Because I know Alka's Blind Tree is like one of your favorite bands.
Yes.
And
Well, the song was written prior to having Matt come in and sing on it. Matt singing on the record was actually something that took place after the record was complete. Feldy, the producer, had started working with Blink-182, and Matt was in the studio every day, and so I think I was driving to Bed Bath & Beyond, I believe, and I was listening to mixes, and I thought, man, I would love it if this second verse had like his voice on it. I really could really hear it. And so it really just came, hey, do you think Matt Stiebel will sing on this? And like about an hour later, I Feldy videoed Matt singing the song, and I was like, fuck, yeah, that's awesome, because that's obviously my favorite band of all time. And when I was a young kid, I went to see Alkaline Trio, and Matt took the time to meet me backstage and signed my hoodie, and he wrote, at the time, my first band was called Beer Sack. And he wrote Beer Sack is my favorite band on my hoodie, and I wore it every day to school. It was like a big thing. So as far as having him on the song, that was kind of a cool moment, but it's also something that came after. That was actually the first song that we wrote for the record, the complete album. And I think that tone-wise, for me, the representation is I went through a lot of like difficult shit emotionally in 2014 and early 2015, and I was trying to find a way, a catharsis to try to get out of that kind of like dark feeling that I had, and by changing a lot about my poor choices I was making in life, whether it was drinking or eating poorly or not being very healthy, all those things had kind of caught up to me, and I was in a place where kind of emotionally it was not in a great place. By the time we started making the record, I had kind of turned things around, and I was in a very good place, very excited to get going. And to me, that was being able to write about kind of the feelings that I had, like just needing to get through this because I know I've got something exciting, and I know my life is worth so much more than just me sitting sad in a hotel room and you're up being bummed out. You know what I mean? Like that's I've struggled my whole life with anxiety and feelings of kind of dark feelings and obsession. Like I've had obsessive tendencies my whole life. Little things, I had to flush the toilet a certain number of times, all that stuff. It drove me crazy when I was a kid. And as I got older, I learned how to harness those things, or at least I thought I did. By and large, I started numbing them by drinking constantly and trying to kind of create something of myself that I wasn't necessarily deep down, creating this kind of exterior version of me. And that worked for a while, but eventually kind of all the walls came crumbling down. And so a lot of what this record is about kind of rediscovering myself and finding myself and being able to be okay with my demons and all that stuff.
I also have one more question, but it's a dirty one. But I know your fascination with Batman, me too.
Yes.
Out of maybe if you've read the pt.2 out of your series, what is your favorite storyline right now?
I liked Court of Owls a lot. I enjoyed that. That was fun. Do you not like that one? Okay, good. Good. I thought you were like disapproving.
No.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hello.
Hello, I'm good. So for people who don't have anyone to look up to and like kind of have like a shitty situation going on, how does it feel to know that like so many people look up to you, so many people you have like such big idols and you don't know almost all of them? Does that like take away from your shoulders?
The truth is, when I was younger, I think it was more difficult to come to terms with the idea that I was inspirational. It didn't feel very inspirational to myself. I would say things that were big, grand, sweeping statements about my devotion to things, but it never really resonated to me as strong as it does now. As I get older, my goal every day is to try to wake up and be better than I was the day before and try to do things that genuinely help people, not just tell you on Twitter that I'm there for you, but to genuinely do things that are helpful, whether it's work with charities or whatever else. It's very important to me as I get older and the longer I get to have this career in life that, see, there's the noise, that I take the responsibility of being important to people importantly. There's no way that I could know that the things that I sit in my living room and write and then get recorded and then you guys hear, whether they're going to inspire you or mean something to you, because I'm not writing songs for you. I'm writing songs about my shit. And the hope is that it will connect with you, because otherwise I think it would be a disservice to you, and I think it would be kind of pandering to say, I know what these people feel like, I know what they're going to think, I know everything, I'm the best, I'm going to write a song for you and it's going to make you cry. That would be kind of shitty. I write songs that I feel like mean something, and I hope that they connect, because when they do, then you and I have that one-to-one connection. Because if I'm writing about my life as a 26-year-old man, it's very unlikely that I'm thinking the same thing that you're thinking when you hear the song. But that doesn't fucking matter, because who cares what I'm thinking? The song is yours once it's out there. And that's the beauty of art in general. It's not really up to the artist, it's up to the person who's seeing it or hearing it. So all I can really do is to try to remain as genuine as possible. And I would be lying to you if I didn't say that I have just the same feelings and bum out and like shitty feelings all the time anyway, you know, like anybody, like any artist. But they push me to create, and they make it so for me, I can spend my time making something positive out of my life, and the responsibility of being there for people makes every day worth living.
going through a lot. Mostly, I've had a lot of hobbies. For the longest time, I've been drawing and basically writing on my computer short stories. And I've actually been practicing guitar. But over time, I've lost motivation for those things. I can't pick up my guitar and strum it happily. I can't pick up my computer and I can't do anything. And usually when I draw, I'm either really bored and it comes out great, or when I'm really focused, it's just terrible. And I know that music career is hard to I don't know how to explain it. I've felt that really widely. What
The truth is that my whole life, I've always wanted to make something that wasn't there a minute ago. My motivating thing every day when I wake up is to say, I would like to create something that doesn't exist yet. Whether that's drawing something, writing something, acting in something, trying to make somebody laugh, whatever it is, an emotion, a feeling, an idea that wasn't there a minute ago, to create is the thing that, like I said, kind of keeps my demons at bay. It makes me feel like I'm worthy of doing something in this life. I can't be stagnant. I can't not do something. The longer I sit without something to do, the weirder I get, and the weirder I feel. I like to have a focus. I always have. I enjoy cleaning the house. I enjoy doing little things because my mind, when I'm doing menial tasks, I can think of other stuff. So if I'm cleaning the house or whatever, I'm thinking about this thing I want to draw, or this thing I want to design, or this song I want to write, or this melody or whatever. And so most of my life is kind of predicated on the idea of building something. The way that I stay motivated is that it's my livelihood. I think that it's a little bit, there's a difference in your life once you realize that, for me, this is how I stay alive. The truth is that entertaining, while it's fun, is also my job. And it's up to me to give you guys something that's worth your time. And people have been fortunate, I've been fortunate that people have spent their hard-earned money on allowing me to entertain them over the last 10 years. And so it's up to me to keep that going. I do my best to always be someone who's constantly creating or doing all I can. So I don't know how to give you motivation other than to say, if it's not something you love, you might not want to continue down that path. You might want to find something you do love. But if it is something that you love and you're just feeling down on yourself, the truth is that you're doing yourself a huge disservice. Whether what you're doing is great to you or not is kind of inconsequential. By developing a skill set, you're giving yourself something for the future and something that you can work towards.
Hi, Andy.
Hello.
I wanted to know two things actually. What's your advice for people who are becoming, wanting to become artists and be successful at being to help other people get there?
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a two-part thing. The advice I try to always give, and I know it's going to sound funny, is don't be afraid to let people tell you that you suck. It's very simple. Every single day, I wake up and I go, oh, today's going to be a great day. And I look at my Twitter and I'm like, oh, shit. And even while I'm asleep every night, I've done at least 300 things to offend other people. Things I'm completely unaware of. And yet, every day I go, you know what, fuck it, they don't need, I'm not afraid to let people tell me that I suck. When I first started my first band, one of the main things that I did was, I would go to every show and I'd walk in, I'm gonna be the fucking man, like this is gonna be the greatest, and then someone would go, you fucking suck! Like, oh, damn it. Well, fuck you, and that really has to be the response, and the feeling is that you have to understand innately that people will tell you that you're awful. I always say that the person who's standing at the top of the hill and standing in front receives the most bullets, and it's a lot safer to be the person standing behind them kind of telling that person, hey, you're getting shot at a lot. You already know you're getting shot at because you're fucking shot in the stomach. You're the person who's standing out front taking the barrage. But if you're willing to stand up and have balls of steel, regardless of gender, you can make something of yourself. You can do something that other people can't do. So having a sense of pride and not letting other people affect you and not letting other people make you feel bad is hugely important. And by the way, I have to follow those guidelines. I have to do that every day. If I said to you that every time I look and see all the atrocities that I've committed on Twitter and Instagram, I don't get bummed out, I would be lying because I'm a person. I'm a human being, and I didn't do a bunch of terrible stuff every day, and yet I read it all the time. And I go, oh, fuck, that sucks, or man, I wish these people could meet me and understand, or that's not true, whatever. Truth is, you can't convince other people to not be rude or awful. What you have to do is to go out there and say, I am something awesome, I can make it through, I can take all the bullets, I can take all the hate, and I can stand on top of the mountain.
And my dad's best friend made this shirt.
It's awesome, I love it, looking good.
And I had one more question. I know you're trying to help end puppy mills.
Yes.
Did you get Daredevil's dog? Did you get him from a puppy mill? Or?
No, well, he was, the problem, it wasn't a puppy mill, but it was a breeder who had bred in Long Beach. There was a breeder an irresponsible breeder who had overbred their dogs, and basically an entire litter of dogs had turned out with some disabled and some deformity in some capacity. Daredevil was born blind. The dogs were put into a trash bag and just dumped on the street. And so we found him at a shelter about a day after they had found him, and they didn't know he was blind until that evening. Because he was born that way. He's no ocular nerve function, but you wouldn't be able to tell because he's a dog. He doesn't speak English very well, so you can't tell you. So yeah, he was not from a puppy mill, but from similarly an overbred situation.
Thank you for being our hero.
Now I ruined everything.
Hi.
Hello.
So I'm gonna try to squish two questions together. I'm not sure how well I'm gonna do.
Smush 'em.
Basically, I'm going through a situation where my mental health and my home situation aren't ideal, and I'm kind of being forced into staying there, and as well as the fact that I would basically give every limb of my body to be able to make music and to help other people, but I'm not being supported properly, and it's just really difficult, and I kind of feel like I won't be able to ever do that, and I'm just wondering if you have any advice.
Advice on how to get out of that scenario, or?
Well, kind of like in a way to like be able to get through it until I'm old enough to move out, and then also to how do I accept the fact that I'm not supported by my family in my dream.
Well, I mean, I'm not ultra qualified to answer that. I'm very fortunate that I was heavily supported by my family. But as a musician, I have spent a great deal of time around other people who are very similarly to you, were not loved in that capacity or given that kind of support or support system. What I've experienced and through what I've seen through friends is that in this world you kind of find your own family.